Hello viewers. One of the oldest surviving institutions is that of the king or the monarch. The king in history has been regarded as a symbol of absolute power and lawful authority. And this idea is captured in the famous English maxim, the king can do no wrong. The office of the king also had tremendous religious significance. He was regarded as a symbol of universal order mandated by heavens, particularly in three of the oldest civilizations, including the Chinese civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, and the Persian civilization. And it was from this view of the king as a symbol of universal order that the idea or theory of divine right of kings was developed, which was also used by some European kings during the medieval period to justify their rule. H.G. Wells, in his book The Outline of History, writes that the earliest civilized governments were priestly governments, and the early rulers of Mesopotamia were kings because they were chief priests. The Babylonian king was regarded as an agent or representative of God. Hammurabi received his code of law, the earliest of its kind, from the god Shamash or the sun god, as you can see on the screen. With Egyptians, king was not merely a representative or agent of God, he became a god himself, and that was a major breakthrough. The Egyptian believed in universal hierarchy comprising four classes: the major gods, the king, the blessed dead or the spirits, and humanity. Of all these four classes, only the king was single, and that gave a lot of prestige to his office. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, the Egyptian believed that the king is on earth forever and ever, judging mankind and propitiating the gods and setting order in place of disorder. To that universal order, the Egyptian gave the name Maat. The Maat idea had tremendous significance. For one thing, it defined the king's role, which included ensuring peace and stability, dispensing justice, performing religious rituals, attending to the economic needs of the people, and protecting the country. Egyptian kings are commonly called pharaohs, and this name was first used in Old Testament. The term pharaoh is derived from the Egyptian word pera, meaning great estate or palace. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, from about 1400 BC onward, this term for palace was used increasingly to refer to the living king. The king's divinity, it is important to mention, accrued to him from his office, not from his person, and was reaffirmed through rituals. One of the most famous of those rituals was the Habsad festival or Jubilee, at which the king reaffirmed his fitness to continue as king. It was celebrated by the king after 30 years of his rule and then repeated every 3 years thereafter. The king first presented offerings to a series of gods, was then crowned and taken in a procession to temples of major gods, thus affirming his status of being a god man. The king, though divine, was regarded as mortal, and thus was born the idea of man god, one of the most important ideas which has helped in particular the Western civilization, and it was from Egyptian idea of man god that Christianity borrowed the notion of the divinity of the Christ. To humanity, the man god manifested the gods on earth. To gods, he represented humanity. Initially, the king was regarded as an aspect of the chief god Horus. Later, the king also regarded as the son of Ra, the sun god. In that, the king aspired to full divinity and was worshipped. The dead king was associated with Osiris, the god of fertility and afterlife. According to H. G. Wells, being of a divine strain, the Egyptian kings were supposed to marry only their blood relations, mother or sister. However, many other historians, including Encyclopedia Britannica, refute this notion. At any rate, the queen who bore the heir to the throne came of the royal family. The king also had other wives who did not necessarily have royal blood. Only the male child, generally the eldest son, was the heir designate. Despite this, the war of succession was uncommon in ancient Egypt. The most important task of the new king was to oversee his predecessor's burial and thus ensure order, thus showing continuity. Now we will narrate an important incident involving Alexander the Great after his conquest of Egypt. It is said that after conquering Egypt, Alexander was taken to the temple of the chief god Amun-Ra. There he was convinced that he was the god's incarnation. Immediately thereafter, Alexander proclaimed himself to be a god and asked his troops to worship him. According to H. G. Wells, Alexander became the first Aryan monarch to proclaim himself to be a god. One of the most famous, if not the most famous, symbols of Egyptian civilization is the pyramids. But why did Egyptians build such huge structures? The pyramids were giant tombs built to bury the kings, and it was rooted in Egyptians' belief in afterlife. When the king died, he became the god Osiris. That required his soul to survive and rest with the body in all splendor. To preserve the body, it was mummified. Thus, the pyramid and mummification meant that the king was neither fully a god nor fully a man, but a combination of both. That he was a mortal, but unlike ordinary mortals, he could aspire for and be conferred on immortality. I trust you like this video. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel Wisdom of Life. Thanks for your time.